But the reality now remains that if a bad hurricane comes through this state and the Citizens Insurance is insolvent, as Ron Desantis just announced, every policyholder in the state of Florida will have to pony up the cost of curing the other insured parties. Hey folks, breaking news from Governor Ron DeSantis has come out and announced that the insurer of last resort, the only one that Floridians have access to for housing insurance, is not solvent. Incredible update that I've got coming for you today. If you're not aware of the insurance debacle that is going on in Florida, it is far worse. And this isn't hyperbole. If you own real estate in Florida, you need to pay clear attention to what I'm going to break down for you. Because if Florida sees a catastrophic event this year, if we have a bad hurricane and there's not enough capital, we are truly insolvent with Citizens Insurance, which is the main insurer that any of us can even get. Even if you buy a brand new house, a house that's not on the coast, that has a newer roof, you go to Citizens. You can't get other insurance because they've all left the state. Now, if you're not clear on the debacle that we are at, like the history of why we're here, I'll link below a video that I recently did describing how this has come about. But the reality now remains that if a bad hurricane comes through this state and Citizens Insurance is insolvent, as Ron DeSantis just announced, every policyholder in the state of Florida will have to pony up the cost of curing the other insured parties who are getting their houses demolished. I mean, we are in a purely socialized property insurance environment, folks, which is crazy because in Florida, most people are coming to Florida and most people assign Ron DeSantis and most of the leadership in the state of Florida to be really not running socialist policies. Now, we didn't go this way intentionally, but as a result of all the other insurers, a ton of them losing so much money, they've left the state, we now have Citizens. And what Ron DeSantis just unfolded is absolutely crazy to think about. So we'd all better be praying that there's no hurricanes this year. But as I jump into this update, I'm going to dive exactly into what was said. I'm going to share exactly what will happen if a major storm comes and just exactly how much money is available to solve the problem. The funds are dangerously low, and recently to solve these problems, band-aids are being applied. And what can happen can be massively costful for all Floridians. We're going to dive into that, but real quick, if you appreciate the update, smash that like button, help get this word out so more people who own property here know what's going on. But let's dive into the news. So the headline, Florida governor turns heads with comment that Citizens Insurance is not solvent. Okay, so hours before Citizens Board of Governors, the people that run this state-backed insurance that we have available to us, they voted to spend more than $170 million over the next 3 years for $500 million in reinsurance bond, a move that staff members say would help insurers avoid paying for a catastrophic hurricane. Now, let me tell you what I just said. The insurance company of last resort, most of us are there. Unless your company that has held on for dear life and they haven't shut down yet, you haven't gotten your non-renewal notice, you will find that if you get a non-renewal notice, you will most likely end up with Citizens here in Florida. But Citizens is buying insurance, is what I just said. Citizens is so concerned that their available capital now, because they are so populous in the state of Florida, they are insuring so many people that they themselves are now concerned that they cannot fund all of the claims that might arise from a triggering event, a tornado or a hurricane mainly. So to give you an idea of what the bond is, they are used by property and casualty insurers as well as insurance companies to transfer the risk to investors of a major event. So if a triggering event happens, the policy kicks in and then the insurance company has to pay the insurance company, okay? And don't worry, folks. I'm sure if that day comes, the insurance company that they've purchased the bonds through, they will be just fine, just like Citizens is, okay? But here's the reality. Let's move further. Now, the comment from DeSantis stemmed from a question that came from a reporter who asked and said some residents can't be fully covered by Citizens. So Citizens is last resort, but some people can't even get into Citizens because their coverage limitation is $700,000 per home in most parts of the state. So the amount of coverage that you can actually gain from Citizens to cover your dwelling may not be enough if you've got a higher end home. And so people still can't get coverage. Others said that they can't be accepted by Citizens until the Hurricane Ian damage is repaired, but repairs have been delayed while claims with their existing carrier have been delayed or unpaid. So now you have the crisis unfolding of the last disaster. People still can't get those issues remedied. Then they get uncovered so that they stop covering, the former company doesn't cover them anymore. And then Citizens won't pick them up because Citizens like, well, you've got damage to your roof that's not covered by the last guy. And I'm not going to make your policy whole in the new house, but there's still issues open from the last guy. So this is the question posed to Desantis. Desantis said, quote, maybe, yeah, I'd be willing to look at that for sure. And then the bombshell comes out. I think most people know Citizens has not been solvent. If you did have a major hurricane hit with a lot of Citizens property holders, it would not have a lot to pay out. Now, listen to this. Citizens by statute cannot become insolvent, okay? Folks, this is the bombshell, okay? Because all of us that live in the state of Florida, many of us will never see hurricane damage on our house. We'll never see tornado damage. We'll never see some major faction of insurable claim that we need solve on our house because of storms. But here is what we are in for. This is the socialistic property insurance program that Florida has now opted to because the fact we don't have a marketplace. Every other insurer, majority of them have left the state. And again, if you're not clear on exactly why we're here, click on the link below. But here's the deal. Citizens by statute, folks, listen, if they run out of money, Citizens by statute in Florida cannot become insolvent. State law allows the company to levy a surcharge. This is where you and I come in. The state law allows the company to levy a surcharge on Citizens policyholders and then on all carriers policyholders if its reserves and reinsurance layers fall short of losses in a catastrophic hurricane season. Okay, so a big storm comes, okay? Now, they've just purchased some reinsurance, okay? So they've got, a couple $100 million coming from another policy, okay? So everybody calls Citizens. Everybody's got damage. Now, by the way, the Citizens have money to pay out, okay? Citizens, according to what I can find online, made approximately $400 million last year, okay? $400 million. You know how they made that money, by the way? They reinvested their money in the market, and we had a decent year, and so they made money. So they had investment returns. So they have $400 million to pay out. And by the way, folks, $400 million is not going to go very far in one city if there's a major hurricane, okay? That is going to be spent very quickly. I think we're going to understand that. Then the great bright idea next is we're going to take part of that $400 million and purchase reinsurance. So we can invest it, and then we're going to diffuse some of our risk of paying these things out to, down the stream. So if we have to, we'll call those insurance claims in, they'll make claims, and then they'll try to get the money from them. So following this bombshell, Citizens media relations manager comes out and says, the governor is correct that if Citizens exhaust its surplus, it will be required to levy assessments on us all. Emphasis added on us all. They will then come and collect from each one of us, and our insurance, which is already astronomical, will be much more astronomical. They go on. It's no secret that Citizens rates are not considered actuarially sound and are below market levels in many parts of the state thanks to the insurer's statutory glide limits that prohibit increases. But Citizens is far from becoming insolvent, says Citizens. Don't worry, folks. We're golden, bro. They know. They're good to go. All right, folks. So let me walk you through worst case scenario so you own a house in Florida. You have Citizens as your insurer. Let me bottom line all this for you so you can know exactly what we're in for. Is this, number one, we've got to hope that Citizens makes another several $100 million this year from investments. We got to hope that this country is not spiraling into recession, which arguably it is. So they make another $400 million this year. $400 million if each catastrophic event, each household claim is around $250,000. Now, folks, if you've had a small flood in your home, it's easy for an adjuster to walk in and be like, there's $30,000 in damage. How much do you think it could cost if a tree flattens your house or a tornado does the same thing? So say $250,000 in cost for one claim. Not impossible to find out. But $400 million, you know how long that lasts? That's 1,600 houses. 1,600 homes. That's a tiny, tiny amount. We know that one hurricane comes in and causes multipliers higher cost than that. So move on. They bought $500 million in reinsurance. Now, I don't know, that's a 3-year buy. I don't know if they get $500 million in coverage every year. Maybe they only get a portion of that. But let's say they get all $500 million. Okay, so that's another maybe 2,000 houses or 1,800 homes on top of the 1,600 homes that they made in profit, assuming we don't have a recession and they make very little money this year. Moving on. The other thing you need to know is that Citizens is backed by a state fund. All insurance, by the way, is backed by a state, what's called guarantee fund. Now, the guarantee fund is kind of like the insurer of last resort of last resort. It's like if everybody caves in, this is the state Social Security program that says, hey, you know what, neighbor, if Allstate never does business in the state again and they say, see ya, pal, you're on your own with that tornado that flattened your house, your last resort to get compensation for a claim when your insurance goes out of the business or insolvent or whatever is backed by the guarantee fund. The guarantee fund, by the way, most recent year I can see was 2021. It's funded by the Florida legislature, comes out of state revenue. It was given $1.5 billion. Okay, so $1.5 billion, around that number is what the state guarantee fund. Now, here's the downside of the state guarantee fund, folks. If your beach house gets flattened over there on Anna Marie Island because a storm hammered it, you only get a max claim out of the state guarantee fund of $300,000. Now, quick math. If you have $1.5 billion in the state guarantee fund at $300,000 per claim max, you've got approximately 5,000 to 6,000 claims. And that's my dumb math off the top of my head. But I'm telling you folks, you've got 1,600 homes to cover out of $250,000 per claim out of a $400 million profit we hope Citizen makes this year. You've got a couple thousand more if they get the $500 million full reinsurance, and that insurance policy is available from the other insurance company that we hope exists when the time comes. And then lastly, the state guarantee fund. So folks, this is the house of cards, which the Florida housing market insurance has become. And the reality is, folks, we all know why it exists. We all know what the cause is. Until we get some serious prohibition to make insurance companies feel safe again doing business here, we are forever going to be caught in this cycle. And right now, at their own admission, our housing insurance is on incredibly, incredibly fragile ground right now. But that's it for now, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel for real estate information and a lot of info on the Florida real estate market. Do me a favor, smash the like button if you haven't already. Go down below, put a comment in about anything. Just say hi, tell me the video stunk, whatever you need to do. But drop me a comment. It'd mean a lot to me. We'll talk to you real soon.